And our service times are at 9:11. We want to see you here. Ben Lowman, all those linking up in every other area. Good to have you guys with us. Who's changing the bucket? That's the sermon title for today. Who's changing the bucket? Now, let me just say, this is one of my favorite stories of all time. I've got to tell it. My friend and his father was our whole lives. I never knew his father not to be a roofer. That's all they ever did. They roofed everything, everywhere. He was a roofer, and they did it for a living, did it forever. And my buddy got older, and he started helping his dad. So they were roofing. And I've told this story in here several years back, but most of you haven't heard it. And they went to a local establishment here in town, and it was a very, very old building. They had called him in, and they said, we have a leak somewhere, and we need the roof fixed. They climbed on it. You know, these old buildings, they have a lot of pitches, a lot of valleys, a lot of ups and downs, and they just couldn't find it. They looked everywhere, and they couldn't find where the leak was originating from. So after a very exhaustive search, they come down off the roof, and they told the owners, they said, look, I don't think we can find the leak. Do you have any idea where it could be originating from? Said, well, all I know is there was a handyman that came by a few months back, and he fixed it for a while. So we could call him. He might know. And they said, well, let's do that. So they called him. This has been several years ago. They called him. He said, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. He said, I know exactly how to fix it too. He said, really? Wow, tell me. He said, if you'll go behind that stairwell, you'll see there's a door, kind of a hidden door behind that stairwell. Yeah, I know exactly. I see it. He said, go in that door and you'll find a little secret stairwell that goes up into this old creepy attic. He said, okay, yeah. He said, go up in that attic. He said, go over toward that far window. He said, when you get up there, he said, you'll see a window. He said, by that window, you'll see a bucket. He said, that bucket's probably full of water. Just dump it. That's a true story. That's one of my favorite stories of all time. It's a true story. That was the guy's fix for the leak problem. So, and when he told me that, I've told it 1,000 times. But anyway, I'm telling it to you again. See, the thing is, who's changing the bucket? That's my question this morning. Who's changing the bucket? See, our lives are much like a bucket. If we look at our lives, they compare to a bucket. See, here's the thing about the bucket. They're always full. And you say, well, my life's not full. I bet you $1 you can't hardly fit a thing in there in the course of a day. So here's the thing about the bucket. Our lives, they're always full, and they lack the ability to empty themselves. I can set that bucket there and leave it there. Unless somebody tips it over, it's not going to empty itself. So this is why our lives are like a bucket. See, many may think, well, my bucket's full of mess. It's just full of mess. Look at all this mess that's in my bucket. It's just full of mess. You know what? I'll become shell-shocked. You know, we tell people, we say, bring your life to the Lord. Bring your heart and your life. We want you to give your life to the Lord. And people say, well, you don't realize what kind of life I have. You don't realize what kind of past that I have. See, if I bring that to the altar, not only will I be shell-shocked, but the concussion will knock everybody out around me. I mean, you know, you've heard the old saying, you know, if I come in there, the rafters will fall. Well, I'm going to tell you they didn't fall when I came in, so I'm pretty sure they won't fall when you come in. So, see, the thing is I have to dump everything. People's mentality is, I have to bring the whole bucket before the Lord, and I got to dump it all. I can't do that right now. I don't know. That is too much for me to deal with. There was a guy that we knew one time that was having a very tumultuous relationship with his wife. And he quit smoking about a week after that. And I remember Tina saying, you know, you might want to keep smoking for a little while until you get the wife thing figured out. See, let's take it one thing at a time right now. See, I think sometimes we think we have to bring it all, every bit, and just, here, Lord, here's my bucket. Now, I'll be shell-shocked. I won't even know how to move or think. See, also we think if I give my heart to the Lord, I got to dump it all right now. See, I don't know if I want to dump it all right now. See, here's the thing. Some of us like the life that we have. Even though it's unpleasing to the Lord, even though it may not glorify Him, even though that it's contrary to our walk with the Lord, some of us may say, you know what, I'm okay with giving my heart to the Lord, but I really want to hang on to some of this stuff. I don't have any problem with it right now. See, the thing is we come into the house and we think that we have to fit the mold that the people put us in. See, let me say that one again. We come into the house and we think we have to fit the mold that the people put us into. I'm going to tell you, how many times have you walked in and said, I really don't know that I can dress like them. I really don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it was Miss Rosie that said it. When Tina and I first came to Christ Point Church, Miss Rosie didn't meet us that first day, and somebody said, well, she has a Church of God background. And Miss Rosie said, am I going to have to start wearing little dresses? And I'll never forget what that person said. You ain't seen Tina. So anyway, it's another favorite story. Our life is the bucket. See, the bucket, we like it the way it is. And don't pretend like we don't, because we do. We like the life the way it is, or we wouldn't have cultivated it to get it to that point. See, the devil comes in and starts guiding us and directing us when the Lord's away from us and before we know Him, and He's got us to a place to where we like what we've put in the bucket. We like what's in here. And this is the mentality people have. If I have to come in and I have to dump my whole life and change everything in 1 second of my life, then hey, no thanks. I'm out. See, we're making it too hard. We're making it too hard. See, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a prison mentality. Somebody's in prison. They give their heart to the Lord. They're not going to punch their card and get to go out tomorrow. They still have to go through the process of fulfilling their obligation to the state. They have to spend their time. They're not getting out tomorrow. Their life has changed, but their stuff's still there. So see, the thing is we're making it too hard in society, and I want to explain that to you. Joshua chapter 7, verse 1. Well, look at Joshua chapter 7, verse 1. Now, it begins, and this is the way it says, but I want to continue. But the people of Israel broke faith in regard to the devoted things. For Achan, the son of Carmi, he was the son of Zabdi, he was the son of Zariah of the tribe of Judah, took some of the devoted things, and the anger of the Lord burned against the people of Israel. Okay. You may have noticed something here, and I noticed it. But there's the word but. In 6 chapters in the book of Joshua, there is a victorious spirit. There is a spirit of conquering the Jordan, moving across, moving thousands and thousands and 1 million people across the Jordan. A process of becoming Passover again, of becoming covenanted with the Lord again, a process of entering into Jericho for a week. Just marching around the city of Jericho. Nothing but victory after victory. The city of Jericho just falls at their feet. The only ones that survive are the ones that come into the covenant with the Lord, Rahab and her family. So now we've got the first 6 chapters, shout and the wall shall fall. Man, everything's great. And then we get to chapter 7 and it starts out with but. But, you know what that means? But means that there's something that has changed. There's something that's an alternative. There's something that's made a 180 here. See, everything's been going good through these first 6 chapters, but there's always that but. And the but is Achan has done something. There's a guy named Achan. See, the people of Israel have broken faith. The word says they've broken faith. They have taken devoted things. They have broken faith in regards to the devoted things of the Lord. These devoted things means literally to ban. That means I'm, as a human, the nation of Israel as a human, they were banned from these things. God says everything from Jericho goes to the treasury, goes to the house of the Lord. See, God gets first fruits. Remember our teaching last May. God gets first fruits. Everything goes to Him. See, that word means devote or to destroy or utterly to the Lord. It means to prohibit. So basically, back to the word ban. We're banned. God says don't touch it, then we're banned. See, here's the bucket mentality again. See, we're carrying things in the bucket that were banned from us carrying. We're never intended to carry some of these things. We've got things in here, and we treasure these things, but we were never intended to carry these things. That's why they carry so much weight. See, they were banned by God. That's why but we've picked them up. The devil has made sure that we've got them in here. The devil makes sure that we've got them in our lives. Things that were devoted to God, maybe. Things that were supposed to be utterly destroyed. But we have got these things in our lives called a bucket, and we've gotten so used to it, it's almost like it's attached to our organs. See, and we wonder why our lives are in such disorder. We wonder why everything is messed up around us. We wonder why we can't seem to get on top of this. We can't seem to get a grasp on that. We can't seem to get peace about this. We can't seem to get momentum and movement in this area. It's because we're carrying things that are dragging us down like a weight behind us. We're carrying things that were supposed to be devoted to the Lord and banned from us ever getting association with. See, the distance between great victory and great defeat is one step. One step. The distance between a great victory and a terrible or a great defeat is one step. All we have to do is just make one step. See, we may try to hide the bucket. We may try to hide it from people. I'm going to hide my bucket. I've got it like I want it. People can't see. They can see if I have a wart growing on me, but they can't see what's hidden, these sins that are hidden. They can see if I've got bald spot, and I don't need to be wearing a band around my head. They can see those things. But they can't see what I'm hiding from them. They can't see what's on the inside. And this is what is crazy. People literally think, and I was one of them, that I can hide these things from the Lord. See, I can get them from the Lord, and I can hide them from the Lord, and He can't see them. See, God sees inside the bucket really well, people. I'm telling you, God sees inside the bucket better than we ever thought He could. God sees really good. But I'm going to tell you, in that first chapter, that first verse of chapter 7, God kind of lays out, here's how it rolls out. There's a guy named Achan. He was the son of Carmi. He was the son of Zabdi. He was the son of Zariah. So basically, all these guys are still alive. It didn't say he was, it said he is. So these guys are probably still alive, and they're in the company of Israel that day. In case we forget, this is a reminder, in case we forget, God knows exactly who we are. If we're trying to slide into the mix and hide our bucket, God knows who you are. Yeah, Steve, you're Gladys' son. Yeah, Andre's your stepdad. Kent was your dad. Yeah. You pastor at Christ Point Church. Yeah, you'll be 50 one of these days. Almost had me there, didn't he? See, the thing is He knows this is an example of Him saying, I know who you are. There's other Steves. There's other Achans possibly in that group. I'm telling you, the one that I know is the one that did it. Here's the one. So we can't hide it. He knows every hair that's numbered on our head. We can't just hide these things because God knows. See, in the book of Joshua, Jericho had been utterly destroyed. Man, they did everything textbook. They did everything like they were supposed to. And did we ever wonder why Jericho fell so easily and Ai could not fall so easily? It might have been, one thing, is that nobody could speak a word. If you can't talk, then you can't talk negative in the situation. You can't curse it or damn it, so to speak. So you know what? Maybe but that's not even the direction. I'm just digressed a hair. Jericho had been utterly destroyed. It was considered a massive victory. God just laid waste of that city and those walls, highly fortified. But next, Ai lies in direct line for annihilation. It is the next in line. If they can take the entire center of the nation, they control everything. The center was the key, and God knew it. If they took the center, the very middle portion of the nation, they controlled trade, they controlled everything. Jericho was large. It came down like tumbling blocks. Ai is small. 3,000 men. I'm kind of expediting this so we don't have to read the whole chapter, but Joshua sent a detachment, said, go up there, tell us what you think, and come back and report. They come back, they said, man, they're small. See, sometimes you can get the cart before the horse. Sometimes you can take a little bit too much of yourself. They're small. I wouldn't give it any thought whatsoever. Just send a few thousand men. So Joshua sends 3,000 men up there to take care of business. Go up there, take care of business, and when you get back, we'll move on to the next thing. Ai won that battle. Israel lost 36 men in that battle that day. because of somebody's bucket, because of somebody's life that wasn't allowing God to move in the way that He had intended to move, somebody's sins cost 36 people their lives. And this is what I like to say it like it is. And Joshua went into a panic mode. Joshua went into panic mode, and if there had been such a thing in those days, he'd have been on blood pressure medicine by the afternoon. He was in panic mode. He was freaked out. You have brought us over here. Now look at us. We're going to be a livestock. They're going to team up. They're going to come after us. We're going to be utterly destroyed. See, Israel retreated. They lost all those men. Jericho was a devoted victory. Everything was to go to the Lord. First fruits, everything. But what happened? Achan carried his bucket into battle. See, that's what happened. Achan carried his bucket into battle. See, sometimes we carry into battle what we're not intended to carry into battle. Sometimes we carry other agendas into battle we should never carry. It's not our job to carry that. We've talked recently. We can't do what we do because somebody told us we couldn't. That's a tool in the box. Tina and I have talked about that. Because you heard voices say that you'll never be able to. That's not why we push. But you know what? For about 15 minutes one day, I may push because of that. God may use that tool. But the reason we push so hard is because somebody out here needs to know God. Somebody out here, their life needs to change. Somebody out there's got a bucket full of mess, and they need to bring it before the Lord. And we've got to make sure they have a free and clear a path to the altar. We need to cultivate that. See, so I can't get preoccupied by taking things into battle that I should never take into battle. See, Achan carried something into battle he shouldn't have carried his bucket. Achan filled his bucket with 3 items. He took 3 items and put them in the bucket. A beautiful cloak, King James calls it Babylonian, a royal garment. He filled his bucket with silver and with gold. So he put a wonderful, beautiful cloak that he found. He put some silver and he put some gold. See, let me tell you what gold stands for. Gold is pliable and it's easy for shaping. It can withstand extreme temperatures and it does not phase it whatsoever. Everything else will burn away from it, but it will withstand extreme temperatures and not be affected. It only gets purer. So, it represents wealth. Wealth represents independence. When we take this bucket in our lives, we say, the more independent I become, see, I got some good-looking stuff in here. The more independent we become in ourselves, the less we feel we need God. The more independent that I get, I don't need the Lord. I don't need the Lord because I got plenty of good stuff in here. I got money in here. I got some wealth. I've got independence. I don't need, you know what? If you don't like me, I don't care. I'm independent. I can make it on my own. See, sometimes those things can take the place of the Lord. Sometimes we can get so independent that our bucket gets so full of mess. Because if God's not poured in the bucket, then you know what? It's going to get filled up with mess real hard. Next thing he gets is silver. He takes some silver. See, silver was used for making vessels. They would form it and make vessels. It was also used to make idols for worship. See, when we take our bucket and we put in there what Achan put in there, Achan's not absent from what we do. The more we hang out and hang on to things, the greater chance they become of being idols to us. The closer we hang on to these things, you know what? Boy, I like my pride, really do like my pride. I like that $100. I like these things. You know what? Wow. I like that. I like that a lot. I want to keep that. They become our idol. They quickly become our idol. So you know what? Get rid of the silver. Get rid of the gold. Here's the robe. The robe was beautiful. It was of royal color. It represented royalty. When we put in there what Achan put in there, royalty answers to no one. Royalty is independent. Royalty rejects correction and instruction because they're above it. Royalty says, I have a sense of pride about me that says I don't have to listen to you. Royalty rejects submission to anyone or anything. I don't have to submit to you because I am royalty. Everybody submits to me. So when we put in the bucket that mentality, then you know what? All of this stuff starts to build. Everything starts to get deeper and deeper, and it starts to get heavier and heavier, and we're carrying so many banned things that are not devoted to the Lord that we're dragging them behind like a weight, and we wonder why life is so hard. See, Joshua didn't understand. I'm going to be honest with you. Joshua didn't understand. He went into that panic mode. Blood pressure went sky high. Jericho should have been the hardest. Jericho should have been the biggest and the hardest foe, and it fell at our feet. Ai should have been the easiest. Ai should have fell like that. We should have walked through Ai without even hardly lifting our swords. Why would such a small thing be so difficult to overcome? And I'm going to tell you why. Jericho represents the world. The world, when it comes to the world, when the world comes at us, the Lord almost does us like a mother, sticks us behind Him and says, I'm going to stand between you and the Lord. You and the world. I'm going to stand between you and the world. You are protected from the world. The world's going to come at you. And I'm protecting you from the world. But you know what Ai represents? Ai represents the flesh. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? Why is that little thing so hard? Because God says, you know what? The flesh is your job. The flesh is your job. You're the one that's got to. I will do the work, but you bring the flesh under submission. You bring the flesh under submission to the Lord, and I will do stuff in this bucket that you never dreamed. But as long as you have a fleshly desire, a carnal mentality, then the bucket's going to stay the way it is. See, the bucket is what, the flesh is what keeps the bucket full. It's not going to empty itself, remember? God's people were under a covenant with Him. They were under a covenant. When one sinned, the whole was affected. So I've placed a covenant. I've placed an order, a ban. We are under a covenant, and one of you has sinned, so I am therefore affecting the whole. The entire nation was affected. Achan's sin defiled the other members of the community as well as himself. It didn't just affect him, it affected everybody. And where the bucket's concerned, if we just take one of those things, and we put it into the bucket, it affects the whole. It affects our whole life. You know what? You may say, well, right there's some pride, right there's some lust, right there's some greed. You know what? I've got pretty much, God has cleaned the bucket up, but as soon as you pick up something devoted or banned, put it back in there, it starts affecting the whole. You know, I've got something in here now I shouldn't have in here. Well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well put the others in there as well. And we're right back to where we were. See, one member is defiled. When one member is defiled, the whole bucket is affected. We're not going to read it. It's going to be on the board. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 7. Paul gives us a pretty good and a pretty clear illustration of what the bucket looks like when the items are in it. A lot of things are in there. A lot of things that are displeasing to the Lord. But I want you to notice with me in verse 11. This is what Paul says. Paul says earlier, he says, look, there's a lot of mess in the bucket. But he says earlier than that, he says, but see, I'm the chief of the sinners of these people. I'm the worst of these people. So he categorizes himself among the mess that's in our lives. So Paul's not saying, I'm above you, I'm part of you, I understand what you're going through. Paul says in verse 11, though, this is what he says, yet from all of them the Lord rescued me. Paul says, I'm not able to dump the bucket. I'm not able to empty the bucket, but from all of these, the Lord is the one that rescued me. You know what? And he's talking about the persecutions from the people. He's talking about the persecutions from the people who have put the stuff in their buckets. But you know what he's saying at the same time? He's saying, look, I'm the chief of those, and I'm telling you like it is. I know what it's like to be on that side. I know what it's like to have an unpleasant bucket full of mess. And I'm telling you, the Lord has saved me and rescued me from all of these. Let's let God empty the bucket. That's what I'm going to ask you this morning. Let's let God empty the bucket. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine your life as a bucket. I want you to imagine it. I want you to look down in it. I want you to just imagine and look down in it. Look at your life. Because you know what? This is a practice that I do all the time. I always look at something as if, no matter what situation it is, I look at it as if I'm on the outside giving somebody else advice. Tina will say, what should we do here? I'm going to say, well, I tell you what advice I would give somebody if I was on the outside. I always look at it as if you're looking into your life and you have no bias whatsoever. You're looking into your life. What do you see in there? See, here's what I want. What do we see? Is there a little bit of pride in there? See, pride looks pretty good. It makes me feel good. It makes me look terrible, but it makes me feel good. It makes me sound terrible, but I think I sound good. Pride is terrible. You know, there's a little bit of hatred. You know what? That just looks just as bad. They don't look any different. I've got hatred. There's some envy. It's all twisted, but it looks a little different. But it's the same. It infects the whole. You know what? There's some hurt. Wow. There's some hurt. There's a little bit more hurt. And then there's some great hurt. It takes a while to get this great hurt covered. You know what? I've got a little bit of bitterness because of that hurt. I've got bitterness because of those. I've got bitterness, and you know what the bitterness does? The bitterness brings back the envy, and it brings back the pride, and it brings back the hatred. And it brings all those, and it's a vicious cycle. But you say, but Pastor, I got some different things. See, I got pornography that I deal with. See, I hide that stuff from people. I don't know. People don't know anything about that. But I have a pornography problem. Well, it's in there. It affects the bucket. I have death that's not pleasing to the Lord at all. It's very unpleasant and it's very unpleasing to the Lord. It doesn't glorify Him. I have some sexual sins that really I don't need in my life. But I don't know if I'm ready to bring them and dump them. I have addictions. And I have habits. And I have things that don't glorify the Lord. I have things that society says are okay, but I know you wouldn't want me to do those things, Lord. So I'm conflicted on what to do here. So the next thing you know, there's a bucket full of stuff, and they're all just wadded up looking like a mess. Hello, guys. Pastor Steve here, Christ Point Church, and I really hope you enjoyed the service today. I appreciate you viewing. I would like to invite you personally to be a part of the services at 9 and 11 a.m. on Sunday mornings. We're located on the square in Sparta, Tennessee. So just want to say to you, we're real people, living real lives, serving a real God. Welcome home. Good to see you.